there's some Revelator songs that I'm like, man, we got to bring those back. But we've done so many songs and albums. There's like so much to choose from that I guess we don't think about it all the time.
You need to get you a really good slide player in Nashville, and you guys need to cover a Derek Trucks song.
You know, he told me Susan wrote the song, which he was proud of. He said that with great pride, you know, the way you say nice things about your family.
From the first note with Tedeschi Trucks, they just blow you away.
Yes, we will. I wouldn't argue with anyone that says that could be my favorite song on I Am the Moon.
He, signs my ticket, and I look over at Susan. I say, Susan, would you sign it too? And she goes, oh, heck yeah.
Kevin calls me and was like, hey, man, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. He was like, Derek wants to record some tuba stuff. I said, when do you want to do it? And he was like, let's do it Wednesday.
It was Midnight in Harlem. And it caught our attention, man. And we started diving deep, and we're like, okay, we got to see these guys.
What's up? Welcome to the unofficial Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 173, and I am Adam Choate. To follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram and on YouTube. Just search Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. If you're watching, you are already there. You are already there, so please be sure to subscribe, give the show likes, shares, comments. That's all definitely appreciated, and definitely also subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. That's definitely appreciated too. I'm on Odyssey and iHeartRadio app as well now. If you listen on those platforms, I got the episode out, the audio version of last night's Nashville recap and Kofi Day of Service recap. That's up on all the audio platforms now. If you wanted to check out that and didn't have a chance to yet, that was super fun. What a fun day. I'm still seeing some of the pictures coming in. I'm sure Renee, who organized the whole thing, again, thank you so much to her. I'm sure she's working on tallying all and organizing all the photos and stats and all the, everything that went along with that. So we'll see the results of all the hard work that everybody put in. Such a great day yesterday and the whole weekend, because there were obviously some events as well going on Saturday. Patreon.com/TTB podcast to support me, support the show. A portion of your support will get donated to the Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation at the second two tiers. Definitely check that out. I appreciate all the support, of course. Patreon.com/TTB podcast. Thank you, Kathleen, Stacy, Troy, Daniel, Marino, Mariah, and Marion for the support. Definitely appreciate it for sure. We're going backwards here. I'm not doing this in chronological order, obviously talking Nashville last night. And now we're going to get into the Bourbon and Beyond Festival with Garrett and Brandon, both returning guests of the show. Maybe Vinny, a newcomer, might pop on in a little bit. We'll see. But let's bring in the guys and we'll get into what went on in Louisville. What's up, guys?
What's up?
What's cooking? Welcome back. Everybody looks like they're back home. Brandon, where are you and how are you?
I'm good. I'm back home in East Tennessee, right outside of Bristol, close to Bristol Motor Speedway.
How far is that from Louisville?
Louisville, it took us about 5 hours.
Damn, and look at you. There are a bunch of you, all y'all driving 3, 4, 5 hours to see the band. Like we love them. What about you, Garrett? Where are you? How are you?
I'm doing good. A little tired from the weekend, but a little sleep tonight will cure that. But I'm west of Knoxville, Tennessee, and so it took me about the same as Brandon, about 5 hours.
Damn. What are we listening to on the way there? A lot of TTB and all the good stuff. You guys have big diverse tastes in music and all that, so you're able to pass the time driving.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Very, very cool. So you guys were both at the whole festival?
I was. I think, Brandon, you just did Friday, right?
Yeah, I did Friday and then went south to Nashville to see TTB again Saturday. So
nice. We could talk a little bit about that too, of course. No doubt. So the festival started. I'm going to get my pictures ready and all that. I got a bunch of stuff you guys sent me and the band and all that. But it was what, Thursday through, where is it here? I got it.
Sunday. Thursday
through Sunday. Yeah, this is a huge event, huge undertaking, certainly, to put this together. I'll just give you. Well, I guess Garrett, you should start because you got there first, so we can start Thursday night, and tell me about arriving, the vibe. I'll give you the floor.
All right. Well, I mean, the whole thing was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm sure you probably looked at the poster I sent you, Adam. I mean, it was a very diverse lineup for the whole festival. I mean, Thursday rather, the headliner was Sting, who used to be with the Police.
Of course.
So you had him Thursday night. Friday night, of course, was Dave Matthews. Saturday night's headliner was Zach Bryan, who's a newer country guy, and then Sunday was Tyler Childers, who's another kind of red clay country guy from Kentucky. So there's diversity just right there in the headliners, and then just throughout the lineup. I mean, you had Tedeschi trucks, you had Samantha Fish, who's a blues guitarist and singer. You had
the star.
Huh?
I just saw her.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. I mean, side note, I mean, a lot of them only got 30 minutes to play because there was so many acts. I mean, she took every bit of that 30 minutes and started on time and stopped on time and didn't quit, melting our faces till she was done. So, but we'll get back to the topic. But yeah, Thursday, it's a neat place. The venue is right next to the airport there in Louisville, so it's kind of weird. You're at a music festival, but yet in the background you see planes taking off and coming in. So
was that a sound issue?
Not really. I mean, it depends how low the planes were. Like if they were low enough, yeah, you'd hear them for maybe 10 seconds or so, and then it'd be done. So it wasn't bad. It didn't affect me at all.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there's the poster. Yeah, it's at the Kentucky Exposition Center. Of course, it's just in a big open, field right there. Then they have a big, exposition center building. I'm not sure what that's used for, but yeah, there's one of the stages there. I believe that's that's the workshop stage. That's where they had like the bourbon samplings. They had cooking, stuff going all day. They had different artists coming up there throughout the festival. I mean, they had Derek up there Friday for talking about his whiskey. They had Charles Wesley Godwin, who's a country folk singer, was up there, cooking something. They just had all kinds of different things going on. Yeah, this was actually Thursday. This was the first thing I actually saw. I got an alert on the Bourbon and Beyond app that Derek was going to sit down with this guy named Fred Minnick, he's a big bourbon connoisseur, I guess, and does a lot of mystery bourbon tastings and rates them on what he thinks. Does kind of a blind bourbon tasting and then gives them rankings based on not knowing who made it or anything like that. So he had Derek sit down with him. Of course, you can see there they have some of his ass pocket whiskey they're sipping on there, and I only caught about half of it. But they were talking about the whiskey. He was trying to get Derek to drop some hints about maybe what TTB was going to play or whatever. And I guess they hadn't done the set list yet at that point. I guess he doesn't do the set list till maybe an hour or so before the show, because they asked him on Friday, jumping ahead just a little bit for a minute, but they asked him on Friday at the whiskey thing, can you give us a hint? Can you tell us what's on the list? And he goes, it's not done yet. So he hadn't sat down and put pen to paper or keyboard to computer or however he does it to figure out what they were going to do. But I thought that was kind of funny. But this was more about his bourbon, just letting people know it was out there. And the funny thing was at the end, Fred goes, so we hear a rumor it's here on site. Can you confirm that? And he goes, yeah, it's here. But he goes, I don't know where it's at. He goes, it's out there somewhere in one of the tents. He goes, they didn't even tell me where they were going to put the tent. So he goes, I have no idea, but it is out there to sample.
It seems like they've done a fantastic job of well, I don't know about like the whole how much availability there truly is, but like limiting availability, or there's just the fact that there's been limited quantities available. It seems like demand is very high. I see, and that it's sold out, and every a bunch of y'all are sending me pictures and updates and telling me it was good. You had a sample, correct?
I did. I
You better say you like it on this podcast. Poor
Hey,
Derek.
I did like it, man. That's no lie. And I'm not a big whiskey drinker, but I thought, heck, if Derek put his name to it,
Is
it's
that
got to
it?
be. Yeah, there's the evidence right there. But yeah, I was like, if Derek's putting his name to it, it's got to be good. So I went over, I think this it was Thursday after he got done on stage with Fred Minnick. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find this tent. I want to get a sampling. So I walked around and found where it was, and that was just the whiskey with a little bit of ice in it, and that was good. And they also had what was called I think it's called a blasphemy. It was the ass pocket whiskey with lemonade. I tried that Friday. That actually was really good, and they were generous with the whiskey. You could actually still taste the whiskey once they put the lemonade in. I know a lot of places you ask for something like that, and they're not going to put much whiskey in there, but they put enough in there you could definitely still taste it, and the lemonade. It was good.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I mean, in 2024 and at festivals and considering everything, like these prices are not entirely terrible, especially when, I don't know, maybe it's a Los Angeles thing and maybe I just saw shows at the Greek, but drinks at those shows were kind of out of this world. So I'm like, okay, especially for something new and a novelty and something that they knew people were going to want. Did you get the sense that a lot of people were trying it and interested in the whiskey, and it was kind of a popular thing at the festival itself?
I think the people that knew, of course, knew who Derek was and knew about TTB and knew it was out there, were trying it. I know several members of my group tried it, and they seemed to like it. I mean, beer was about the same price as the whiskey with ice in it. That's $17, and I'm like, if I'm going to pay that, I really don't just want a beer. I want something a little better. And I thought, I'll put my money towards that and support the cause a little bit. And it was worth it. It was good. And, and surprisingly, there were people going to the things with Derek, not really knowing who he was, I guess, just wanting to they had heard about the whiskey and just wanted to hear more about it. So I got to talking to people. I'm like, so you going to go see Tedeschi Trucks? And they're like, who's that? I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, that's Derek and Susan's band. It's Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi. And they're like, oh, this guy, he's in a band. I'm like, yeah, you should go check him out. I was like, definitely don't leave early on Friday. It's going to be worth it. They'll probably have the best set of the weekend. I heard people talking. I've been talking to people online today, and a lot of people agree with me that Tedeschi Trucks, we'll get into the set list later, but a lot of people were like, yeah, they had the best set of the weekend. A lot of people think.
that ass pocket whiskey guy plays a pretty good slide guitar too.
Yeah.
Is that what that's what they're gonna say? No, that's cool. I mean, that's what these festivals are. You get to discover, other bands. And in terms of like what kind of a specific festival, this obviously whiskey bourbon festival, you're gonna get to discover new brands and new things you like. And these brands are looking to discover new customers and new customer bases and things like that. In my mind, it's like, oh, this whole festival centers around Derek Tedeschi Trucks Band and Ass Pocket Whiskey, but there's lots of bands and probably tons of whiskey. Like how many, I guess I could have done my research beforehand, but like, I guess how many different brands of whiskey and like, did you get the sense were out there? Was it just whiskey everywhere basically?
There were a lot, like that Fred Minnick guy on, I think it was Saturday. No, I think it was Sunday. He did a blind, one of his blind bourbon things where he had 15 or 16 glasses lined up, all with different bourbons, and he was going through, and rating them about what he thought. And of course, he told Derek when he was talking to him, he's like, "Man, I'm not gonna lie." He goes, "I love this whiskey," and he goes, "I'm gonna put it in my blind whiskey bourbon and whiskey challenge for Sunday." He goes, and we'll see how it does. Maybe it'll take home best in show. It didn't. I think it was, I don't know. He only gave a top 5, and it wasn't there. But I was hoping it would be personally. I was like, come on. I'm hope Ass Pocket Whiskey wins the whole thing. But It did, but it was kind of neat for him with Derek sitting there to say, "Hey, man, I like this enough. I'm going to put it in my blind challenge and see how it does." But yeah, the whole festival is very interesting. I mean, Friday, I guess you could say, was centered kind of around Tedeschi trucks and Derek because he made, appearances for his whiskey, and he sat in with a couple of people. We'll get into that, I'm sure, as this goes on. But yeah, it was just neat to hear him. And really, we don't get to hear Derek talk a whole lot, so that was really neat too, to hear him sit down with somebody and put it in his own words. What he wanted with the whiskey, and how long he had kind of tried to figure out what he wanted to do. And Fred asked him, he's like, "So you've been coming through Kentucky for a lot of years. What took you so long to put this out?" And Derek basically said, "Look, I wanted to put out a quality product." He goes, "I didn't want to just put my name on any old bourbon and be like, okay, there it is." He's like, I wanted something of quality, something that I would drink."
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense with their whole approach to music and everything. It makes me think of like John Madden trying to develop that video game, the Madden football game, and like he did not want to release the game until they could have the technology where it's 11 on 11 like real football. He's like, "No, we're not putting out a video game that's 7 on 7. It's got to be 11 on 11." They all thought he was crazy and like wasting time and energy, but eventually, obviously, like, you know, quality wins out.
There was
Yeah.
during that
Go ahead.
interview.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Brandon.
He along those lines, Derek said he made the comparison of his whiskey to covering an Allman Brothers song. He said, if we're going to cover an Allman Brothers song, it's going to be spot on, and that's how he compared it to his whiskey, which was, I thought, super cool.
I'm sure it's quite smooth, the whiskey.
I didn't try.
I have a feeling, as is everything probably on that Fred Minnick's table. I did see that dude did say he has the best job, and it's hard for me to disagree with that. Like,
Yeah,
rating whiskey.
it's smooth for sure. That whiskey is smooth. I gotta say that. I'm not a huge whiskey guy, but it's very smooth.
I'll get my hands on some of it one of these days for sure.
But yeah, like Brandon was saying, they asked Derek, and I don't remember how they worded the question, but they were like, you guys cover a lot of songs, and he goes, you don't cover the Allman Brothers as much as I think people would think, and he kind of said, why is that, and is there kind of a formula to it? And Derek said, well, when we do an Allman Brothers song, we don't want to get up there and just do it. He's like, we want to do it so the quality is there, so that, we're paying tribute to the band that brought the music to us, and we're doing it right. He goes, we don't want to just throw a cover together and go, okay, we're going to cover, Whipping Post tonight, or we're going to go with Come and Go Blues, and just throw it together and go, okay, there it is. He goes, we want to take time and work on it and get it to where we feel it's right before we bring it out in front of an audience.
Right. No, they have that. I feel that same kind of magic listening to TTB do any Allman Brothers song that they put their heart and soul in, as I do when I'm listening to like Greg and Dwayne and whatever. Really, any era of the Allman Brothers that's out there. It's like it has that same magic and that same energy and that same like sort of feel. I don't know. It's hard to describe, and that's no slight on any other, like, because there's a lot of talented musicians who've been in and out of the Allman Brothers and playing in tribute bands, and I've had kind of countless amounts of them on this show, and they're all super talented. But there is something extra special about TTB doing the Allman Brothers band songs. Even just thinking about Derek and Dwayne Betts, them playing earlier this year, a couple of songs, a couple of gigs and sit-ins, whatever. Like that was cool. Like thinking about the Elizabeth Reed, like them doing that's extra special. No one does Allman Brothers like TTB, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Did you
Other
guys
than
talk about
themselves.
Come and Go? I'm sorry.
No, what's that?
Talk about Come and Go Blues last night.
A little bit.
Okay, that was one of the best versions I've heard. It was absolutely spot on, and the thing I thought was so cool is that people compare obviously Dwayne to Derek all the time, or Derek to Dwayne. But Come and Go Blues was after Dwayne, and so it's a different Allman Brothers take, and it was absolutely spotless. That was one of the best versions I've ever heard. The Nashville Come and Go Blues.
Who wrote it? It was, Greg obviously sang.
He wrote it.
He wrote the song too,
Yeah.
but it does have more of like a country Dwayne or Dickie kind of,
and it's really piano
a little bit,
right? It's from Chuck Leavell, that era of the Allman Brothers. It's they do a super version of it. Absolutely, the Nashville version. I recorded it and I just keep listening to it. It was just absolutely great. And Brandon on the bass was phenomenal. It was really. You got to check that one out if you hadn't yet.
Yeah, I got some more pictures here. Neither of you are at the Derek. What was it called actually? The show that Derek did, the intimate show.
Wednesday night
for the whiskey release.
Right.
No, I wasn't there.
Yeah, I got some pictures of that Jeff Fink sent. Fan of the.
Yeah, he sent that Dylan tune. Did you get that, Adam?
Here's that event. Super intimate event. We got Gabe and Falcon and Derek and Brandon and Mike on stage there. And I think that's Isaac, not seen behind Derek there. But yeah,
like a fireside version of
right.
CTB.
Exactly, yeah. Did Derek Trucks Band ever officially end? I was asking. That's like a conspiracy theory that I brought up that Derek Trucks Band never really officially disbanded.
I don't think they did ever. As far as I know, I know they put out that last album, then they put out that live album, and then it was. I don't think they ever announced they were officially done. I think it was just Derek started with what would become TTB, and then Enrico went and played with a group called Royal Southern Brotherhood, and then they all kind of went off and did kind of their own thing. I don't remember there ever being an announcement saying, "Hey, this is the end of it."
Right.
So I don't know if there was ever a plan that, hey, we might all get back together at one time when they disbanded, or
it would take on just a different lineup in some capacity under the.
Right.
If Derek did a side project, he could still and might use the Derek Trucks Band name, but it obviously wouldn't be the same lineup. This venue looks super awesome.
Wow.
Look at this ceiling and all this stuff. Super cool. It's like seeing that. It almost looks like a nice sort of lodge restaurant where they like cleared out all the tables or something and put in like a stage. That's the set list. Show barn at Ashburn Farms, LaGrange.
Wow, that's
Preaching Blues, come and go blues. Life is crazy, feel so bad. Joyful noise, 44 blues, Midnight in Harlem. I think that was with Mike on vocal. I did get some videos. I think. Get out of my life, woman, tangled up in blue, gilded splinters, dreams keep on growing. Liz Reed, wow, and Key to the Highway, and it's probably Get What You Deserve. I'm guessing.
Oh wow. To
close it out, yeah, you got a like you said, a fireside sort of version. And we were talking about last night. I guess Susan was at some other show in Nashville, I think, when Derek was doing this, or was that I don't know. They've been all over the place. I can't even keep up with them. But Susan was doing, I think, something else this night. They're always.
Yeah, I listened to that as I was driving back today, and I think it was said she sat in with My Morning Jacket, I think was the name of the band.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about last night.
They were at the festival too. They played one night, and I thought they sounded good. I didn't really know of them, or I knew of them. I knew of the name. I had never really listened to them, but I thought they sounded good. And then I heard somebody mentioned she sat in with them. I'm like, wow, I didn't think that would happen from listening to My Morning Jacket. I didn't have Susan sitting in with them on my bingo card, but
yeah, they've done a few shows or festivals, or did they open for TTB? They've definitely crossed paths over the years a couple of times, I
They've
think.
probably been on the same festival lineup a number of
Right,
times.
probably, and jumped on stage with each other and things like that. David Flam last night was commenting or mentioning how the set list size has changed. Now it's like a 5x7 or something as opposed to an 8x10. But I do like the design on here. That's super cool that you have the sort of drawing, the sketch of the venue itself. Like that's
Yeah, and you got the whiskey logo there at the bottom.
Yep. Yeah, this is a stellar set list. Cool.
Man, Tangled Up in Blue. I would have loved to have heard that. That
There's
Bob Dylan cover. I would have loved to have heard that.
That Vinny
Yeah, I
guy
think TTB will play.
some video. That guy sent us some video of that.
Okay, see, I haven't watched that yet. I saw it come through in the chat. Yeah,
It's pretty cool. It's about 40 seconds or so.
Hey, Brandon, does that hat look familiar?
Oh, the hat, yeah, that's the ass
Yeah.
pocket.
Yeah.
Oh, you got one. You got one.
Check this out, Adam.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get someone from the ass pocket whiskey. Oh, you got. Oh, that's even better.
Check that
That's
out.
real signature confirmed from the things that I have signed behind me. Yeah, no, that's.
I watched it happen in person, so I know it's real.
No, I want to get. I would love to get, like, obviously Derek and Susan and the entire band on the podcast, but like I would love to talk to someone from Ass Pocket Whiskey about, because I'm sure they're of all these brands and companies that the band works with. A lot of them do, of course, like love the music. Most people that like I've come in contact with who like work with or for or have worked with the band in some capacity, they're nutcases about the music like we are. Even the I don't know if you noticed, they had the was it the yerba mate energy drink that was Renee was passing that around. I think some of the different Kofi days of service locations were handing it out, but the band, I guess, loves that drink, and I guess they love the band too. So if anyone from that yerba mate wants to come on podcast and talk about the music and the energy drink, it's not bad. I tried it. I like coffee. I'm still on coffee, not gonna lie, but nevertheless, it was light, non-carbonated, good stuff all around there. Cool. This is from the fest from Bourbon and Beyond.
Oh. Dude, that's the reason I went to the festival. Back last year, about this time last year, Derek sat in with Dave Matthews Band in Jacksonville, and they played Lie in Our Graves. And then when this lineup was posted for Bourbon and Beyond, and I saw that Dave Matthews Band and TTB were playing the same night, I said, "Oh my gosh, I've got to be there." That was the reason for the drive right there.
Yeah, he makes everything better. Like every band, every sound, and like you both saw this performance that this is a picture of.
Yes, that's Lie in Our Graves. He's playing with Dave Matthews Band, Lie in Our Graves.
Now, could you tell that like not everyone in the audience knew quite what they were in for before Derek played, like, and then they were like, "Holy shit!" Can you tell the people who were?
Yeah.
Well, I was saying "holy shit" the whole time, but
right.
So was
but
I.
You knew you were going to say "holy shit."
I was saying that all the way through TTB's performance, Brandon. I don't know about you, but every song, that's what came out of my mouth.
Oh, everything was spot on, man. And that it was so cool seeing them 2 nights in a row, and it was 2 totally different shows, totally different vibes. Like the vibe at the festival, everything was streamlined. It was like no downtime in between songs, very precise. They didn't really drag anything out very far. I think the first song Derek didn't play a solo. He let Susan play it, and it was shorter. And then like everything was more streamlined.
Yeah, I'll grab. I have the set list. I'll grab that in a second. Okay. But this is a great shot of Derek and Dave Matt. This is, I think, probably Bradley Strickland and what
looks like they're both smiling.
Oh, right. You don't. Derek Derek seems to light up more, obviously for guests, but also obviously for Susan when she plays and sings.
Yep.
And the band, like all but especially guests. That it's exciting for the band and fun for the band and Derek and Susan to play with others. It's fun for them for sure.
Yeah, well, Derek was up there with DMB. I was filming, but I was kind of watching the big screens at the same time to see when they put Derek up, and kind of who they would show while he was up there. They zoomed in on Carter Beauford, the drummer, and he's back there, doing what he does, hitting those drums, but he's got the biggest smile on his face when Derek was out there. Yeah, you can kind of see it right
You can
there.
see it, despite like the zoomed in 5,000 times pixelated.
Yeah.
That's how big his smile is. That you can still see it through
Oh
his
yeah,
intricate drum set and through the pixelation.
and
he's looking at
always
Derek.
smiling. Like I've been to a few DMB shows, and he always is smiling. But I just think it was a little bit bigger when Derek walked out, and they were playing with him. I think Carter was smiling just a little bit bigger than usual.
Yeah.
Watching that go down, and yeah, you can tell Derek is not one for emotion when he plays. He evokes it out of that guitar, but man, that look on his face right there just says it all.
Have you guys go on?
I was just say he's having as much fun on the stage playing as we were watching it.
It seems like, I mean, Derek's kind of default is to be more of a stoic type on stage and then have that kind of demeanor. It's different. Like you have those types and different, there's all types of the, personalities on stage with TTB. But did you guys ever see like Derek Trucks band, like back in the day live? Because I feel like he's become more expressive on stage, more smiles, more laughs. Not every show start to finish, but I think playing with Susan has obviously probably brought that sort of energy out of him, as opposed to being, stoic a higher percent of the time. Have you seen that sort of evolution?
Most definitely. I can remember seeing a show where he would barely face the audience. He was totally head down, turned sideways, and like never look up. And
I don't think it's a shyness necessarily. I don't think it's like a Prince Miles Davis, I'm the artist, don't look at me thing. I think it's just like he is kind of in his own world and he's really engaging with the other people in the band. Like to face Tim, Kofi, and whoever's back there, it's like, he gets lost.
Totally focused, Yeah. I think
right. But some artists will do that for as a statement. You don't get to see me kind of thing, or shyness could be a thing. But I don't think it's either of those things. It's just he's really lost in his collaborators on stage and the music itself.
I agree.
Right. When he would play with Derek Trucks band, I mean, he wouldn't really smile, but he would look over at like Todd Smalley on bass, and Todd would do something, and Derek would look at him and kind of crack a smile, or Jan Rico on the drums would do something, and Derek would look back at him. I guess they had all the musicians on stage had a way of doing little things to get reactions out of the other members. So you'd see smiles back and forth, and of course, Derek would talk during that. He would come up and introduce the band himself, which that doesn't happen with TTB now, but he'd take the mic and introduce everybody in the Derek Trucks band. So, I mean, that was what little he talked to the audience back in those days, but at least you get that much.
Yeah. I wonder if he's ever attempted to say something just like, oh, he had a thought in his mind. Oh, maybe I would want to say this once more, but nah, it's probably not, which is fine. That this topic comes up every once in a while. The fans that would like to hear Derek say something at the shows. I don't know. Slash never really says anything. It's just if you're a guitar player and you're not a singer and you have a singer, that's it's their thing. I'm not here to hear him talk. But what I was gonna say is you were saying we don't really hear Derek speak a lot. What we do, he does do a fair amount of interviews and press and things like that. And a handful of us have rubbed shoulders with him, after shows, before shows, and things like that. But you don't really see him speak a lot live in that sort of forum, like on a stage, and that's sort of in a speaking event. That's new for us. For us fans, 95% of the time Derek's on stage, he's playing guitar. He's not talking. So to see him in more live and more of I don't know, human, normal, outside of being a virtuosity filled musician, just being a regular guy, that's always fun too, and probably a departure of sorts for.
Yeah, that's what made the couple days of the festival cool, was because you could see Derek in different settings. Like he sat down with that Fred Minnick and got kind of interviewed about a little bit about him, a little bit about the whiskey, and then he did the whole whiskey thing where he sat down on that stage for, I think it was 45 minutes, wasn't it, Brandon? I think they had a whole 45 minutes up there, and They were just, talking music. They were talking whiskey. They were, they had cigars. They were smoking. It was just real laid back, and it was just so unique to see somebody that we're used to going to a show and watching him shred the guitar for 2 hours. And it's like, man, somebody even at the whiskey thing where he was sitting there, having a cigar with the two other people, a guy behind me goes, "Hey, I thought he was going to bring a guitar and play a little bit, but I guess not." I mean, that was a rumor going around that maybe he'd bring his guitar and do something kind of by himself. But again, it was just unique. He was just sitting there, just, cutting it up with a couple of people that were interviewing him. And at one point, I think one of the guys said, "Well, I had a whole list of questions here I was going to ask, but we don't have time anymore." He said he prepared something just in case the artist wasn't going to be real engaging. And then when Derek engaged them and they got into a full-on conversation, he's like, "Well, I guess I don't need the paper anymore."
Yeah, no, I get that. And even just doing like a podcast, sometimes like I'll have thoughts or questions or things I might want to ask or bring up. But a lot of times, whether it's you guys or the artists themselves or people who are involved with this band or fans in some capacity, everyone's just so passionate and excited to talk about, the things we love, the music we love, whiskey, whatever the topic of the day is. Like, I don't have to struggle too hard to get stuff out of anyone around here too often.
Yeah, one of the people interviewing him was, do you remember her name, Brandon? Was it Carrie Van Winkle? Or
she was the daughter of the Van Winkle family, that really expensive bourbon, Pappy Van Winkle. And she was the daughter.
Dude, I'm in the mood to drink some whiskey. I gotta get something decent here. Trader Joe's bourbon. That's where we're at here.
From what
It's not bad.
The run that he did for that Ass Pocket whiskey was from Pappy Van Winkle, so that's pretty high quality stuff.
Right.
It's already all gone, and now they're looking for a second batch, a second run. I think he said it has to at least be 10 years old, and he's on the search, he said.
Oh, so there really is no Ass Pocket whiskey available right now? Or
that's what they said, yeah.
Yeah. Or are they creating demand? No, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure more will be available at some point, but to slow release it or whatever is not a bad idea, to have limited editions periodically released, especially when, it's more or less this is Derek's side project. He doesn't need another band. He's happy to push the whiskey.
Right.
Brandon, I see Brandon's figuring things out technically. There we go. Should I pull up the
back on there?
Yeah, you're good.
They did ask him how long he'd been coming through Kentucky, and he goes, "How long you been coming through Kentucky and experiencing bourbon?" And Derek kind of said without saying he'd been coming through Kentucky since he was about 15. And then one of them said, "Oh, so you've been drinking bourbon that long?" And Derek kind of laughed it off and said, "Yeah, I guess you could say that."
That's a decent point. He's been at it for a while. I mean, I don't know exactly when he had his first drink or whatever, but he probably is a connoisseur too at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he can tell the difference between something that's quality and not quality without having a degree in whatever you need a degree in.
I know he's talked about his bourbon collection a little bit in some interviews he's done. I know I've watched it, and he's talking.
Yeah, he did a couple of interviews with bourbon related interviews for sure. We can pull up the set list. I'm sure Brandon will be.
Yeah, he'll be back. I'm sure.
Yeah. This is it right here. Anyhow, Statesboro, Midnight, Gilded Splinters, Keep on Growing. What is BFG again?
Bound for Glory.
Bound for Glory.
I think they were gonna probably segue into it from Keep on Growing, but Keep on Growing was not played.
Right.
So they started with Anyhow, which was awesome. I love when they start with that tune, and it sounded awesome. They came out, they were kicking on all cylinders right away, and that was a great start off. What'd you think of Anyhow, Brandon?
Oh, it was great. I love that as an opener, like you were saying. That it just got the show going.
And you play drums, Brandon? You said you play music. I imagine. And Garrett, do you play guitar or anything?
I play a little guitar.
Nice, yeah. That's cool. Just that you guys play also just a little bit, because I just feel like if you even attempt to play music for any period of time in your life, you just appreciate it that much more on a deeper level when amazing people perform it. Made up mine after Bound for Glory, Angel to Sugaree, I Want More, and Soul Sacrifice to close it out. Not a long set. The festival in an hour. What does that say? It's the hands covering at 8:40 to was that 7:40 to 8:50 an hour 10.
Yeah, they had 70 minutes. Yeah,
right. Action packed 70 minutes.
They played an hour and 9 minutes. I looked at the clock at the start, and I looked right when they hit the last note. And it was an hour and 9 minutes. So they planned it out well. They didn't waste any time.
No, you got a pretty diverse set here. You got some, I see some Mike moments in there, some very Susan centric moments, Allman Brothers,
Yeah,
nothing.
Statesboro was great. I mean, they finished anyhow, and I'm like, okay, we get that to start. Where are they going? And then they fire into Statesboro, and I'm like, whoa, here we go.
Yeah.
In a way, I was kind of like, they finished anyhow, and I'm like, okay, are they going to hit Chevrolet? Where are they going to go? Because, I love when they do Chevrolet after anyhow, just because of the whole Chevy commercial thing. And I thought, what, are they going to do that? Where are they going to go? How are they going to back that up? And then they went into Statesboro, and I'm like, okay, I didn't expect Allman Brothers this early, but I'll take it. And like Brandon said, we're standing there saying, holy shit, the whole time.
Yeah, I'm sure. I see sort of like, because we've sort of analyzed over the years or whatever, like what are the choices that go into a festival set versus like regular TTV shows, so to speak. And I do see, kind of what jumps out, I guess, is that you do see 5 out of the 10 songs or whatever here, or parts of songs, are covers. So that's probably an extra appeal. Statesboro, Gilded Splinters, Keep on Growing, Angel, Sugaree, and Soul Sacrifice. So really, you have 6 examples of covers in there. So I'm sure a big chunk of the audience, probably knows or recognizes or loves those songs on some level. So that I'm sure appealed to everyone. And then you have Midnight in Harlem, their most popular in a sense, or signature song, as I refer to it. So you're getting that. So between like 6 covers and Midnight in Harlem, I'm sure everybody was won over, loved everything else on top of it. Like, that only leaves Anyhow, Made Up Mind, and I Want More is like it's what's left there, and that's pretty damn solid.
It was very solid.
Yeah,
Soul Sacrifice to close it out is powerful. I can't remember the last time to close out a show they closed out with Soul Sacrifice. Maybe a set.
Most bands, I would be kind of upset they did so many covers, but with TTB they do them all so well, and they it's just I didn't care. I'm like, okay, yeah,
Oh, no,
I love
yeah.
it. Statesboro was great. Susan sounded awesome on the vocals. She was really driving. Derek was driving the whole band during that, and because you could tell, because he'd turn and kind of look at the drummers, and then he might look over at Gabe, or not that they were soloing or anything, but he was just kind of look around and see what the others were doing while he was doing his thing, and then him and Susan would kind of look at each other. So that was neat. Midnight in Harlem's always great. I remember
You go on.
what I was just gonna say. I remember when Revelator first came out, and there was a while I'd go to a TTB show and I'd hear that, but now you don't hear it as much, which makes it special when they do bring it out, because they're not playing it every night like they were when Revelator first
What
started.
song? You talking about Midnight?
Yeah.
They play. I think you get Midnight. I think pretty much almost every other show, and if they're doing a run, you'll get it at least once. You'll get it once at any city residency.
I guess for me, it doesn't seem as often as it was when Revelator had first hit.
Oh, maybe I'm sure when Revelator came out, it was essential every single night. You could miss a Midnight in Harlem. It's happened. Like
I kind of compare it to Warren Haynes' Soulshine in a way. Warren will do that about every 3 shows. I think TTB kind of treats Midnight that way, where they'll do it like maybe every couple shows they'll bring it out. So it's not a guarantee every night like it kind of was for a while.
Right, and I guess that makes sense because I saw Warren play with Slash on Slash's tour not too long ago as well, and they did Soulshine together. But that was like not a novelty, but that was a special thing. Like, so they were probably playing that. They were playing Soulshine every night on that tour together. But yeah, I could see when Warren does his own thing that might not appear in every single show. Like most TTB fans are probably not going to be, unless you haven't seen the band in years, maybe. But if you see them fairly often and you know, you've seen them dozens of times or whatever, or even just a dozen times or 5 to 10 times, you're probably not going to be super upset if you don't see Midnight in Harlem because everything else is so awesome. But if you're a more casual fan or someone who doesn't know them, you know, it's Midnight in Harlem is one of those songs that wins people over. Like people listen to that and then it's like, oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like they were there. I'm sure there were people in that crowd. No slight on any Howard Statesboro, which I'm sure won over fans the second the first note was played. But if anyone was not fully won over, or in some small way even, but I'm sure their fandom probably increased exponentially upon Midnight. A lot of fans upon hearing that song.
Yeah, I know for going back to Statesboro, I know around me they got done anyhow and they hit Statesboro and it seemed like everybody around me was singing right along with Susan every word. that they really engaged. And I think that might be a reason why they, as you were saying, why they pulled so many covers is just for crowd engagement, to give everybody, you know, something they recognize and, you know, something to kind of respond to. I mean, Angel in Montgomery was the same way.
Right.
I noted that in my notes I took during the show. I mean, everybody around me again was singing every John Prine lyric right back to Susan, because it seemed like they knew every word.
Right. Whenever some people cheer for Angel, it's like, oh, they're the Bonnie Raitt fans. Whenever you hear Sugary, oh, they're the Deadheads. And whenever you hear Statesboro, oh, they're all the Allman Brothers fans. Like, and I think there is a lot of truth to that. Like the people who hoot and holler and yell out when they hear those songs, those were a big part of like their life and probably fandom for those other bands. So for TTB to play those songs at these festivals, you know, it's crowd pleasers, as you say. On that note, though, where are all the I Am the Moon songs and where are all the Gabe Dixon moments in this show?
I think that was more because they had limited time.
Of course, yeah. I'm kidding.
They kind of, I think when Derek probably made this, he probably looked at this and said, okay, how can we work some of our tunes in there? How can we engage the crowd, and what can we do in the time we've been allotted?
Yeah.
And they knew what they could fit in there and what would work well, and they pulled it off great. I mean, I wouldn't change a thing.
There's a couple missing. They didn't end with Soul Sacrifice.
Oh.
They played Made Up Mind, and they ended the show with Space Captain.
Oh, okay.
So no, it was Space Captain before Midnight, or before Made Up Mind. Brandon, Made Up Mind ended the show.
Made Up Mind. Okay, I knew it was.
Oh, so they rearranged some things. So let me see on set list.
Oh yeah, okay. Made Up Mind's on there. I'm sorry. Yeah, Space Captain. I remember that was on there, or they did it. But
that's to me, Gabe really stood out on Space Captain. I really enjoyed hearing him on that song.
Yeah, they closed it out. They did so Made Up Mind was the second to last song, like you guys are saying, and then it's saying Bound for Glory was actually third. They did play Bound for Glory between Statesboro and Midnight.
They did. Yes, they did.
Gotcha. It was moved. Okay. All right. Okay. We're sorting it out. it's all good. Yeah. Good stuff though. Anything else about the show, the event you guys want to talk about or mention or cover?
It was great to hear Bound for Glory again. I hadn't heard that in a while. That was nice that they broke that out again. I was happy to hear that.
How many times have you seen this band live, Garrett? Where are we at?
I think I'm right around 20 shows.
What about you, Brandon?
I'm getting close to, I think, 30.
Nice.
Up there. Good.
And I'm somewhere.
No, David Flam. Yeah.
40.
No. Yeah, I'm no David Flam either,
but he can say that he's no certain other people too. There's a couple out there that have been to hundreds.
That's wild. I wish I could.
I think if I added all my TTB shows, my Derek Trucks Band shows, and my Allman Brothers shows, I'd probably be right up there with David. But I'm sure if he counted up all his, he'd probably be way over me with that number.
Not necessarily. I don't know if he caught I don't think he caught Allman Brothers and Derek Trucks Band as many times as you had. I would count that too. You should say that when someone asks you how many times did you see TTB. Don't wait until the follow-up question say I seen him this amount of times, but also, not that these, concert counts, or flex that means everything or anything like that, but it shows that you love the band. Like, it shows how long you've been a fan. It definitely says something that you're willing to spend your money and time and energy and over an extended period of time towards the band. So it doesn't mean nothing. It means a lot. And I'm sure the band appreciates that, like, the support.
Going back to the set list for a minute, there was some interplay between Elizabeth and Derek. Which song was that, Brandon? Do you remember that Space Captain? When he went over to Elizabeth and they were going back and forth.
That was cool. I forgot about that. I guess it was Space Captain.
I'm sure it was, and they've been doing that for quite some time. And I think I was talking about recently how, they'll sometimes do these different arrangements and give different band members solos and experiment, and these songs will evolve. But her interplay with Derek on Space Captain, I think,
that was unreal.
It's been going for quite some time, and I don't think that's going to be taken out of Space Captain anytime soon. It's like kind of essential at this point.
Yeah, that was my first Space Captain, so I was blown away when they played that one. I had not heard them do that one yet, so that was cool, especially Elizabeth and Derek. And I was watching the screens, hoping they would get a camera over there so I could see Elizabeth's face, but I couldn't see Derek. And I'm like, come on, somebody get a camera over there so I can see what Derek is seeing too. I want to see his reactions.
Was it that you couldn't see? You were obstructed from.
I was kind of standing. I was blocked by Gabe.
Yeah, I know where you were.
And Derek was over right in front of Elizabeth, so he was kind of behind Gabe. But that's why I was saying I was hoping the venue would have told the cameraman, "Hey, get over there and put your camera right near him so we can see both sides." But Elizabeth's reactions were cool because she'd do something and then Derek would do something and then she'd do something and she'd kind of crack a half smile, trying not to lose concentration. So that was neat to see too. And then Derek and Susan working their way into Soul Sacrifice. Man, them going back and forth was that melted my face. I mean, that was unreal. I don't think I've seen them have a guitar conversation like that before. I mean, I've seen them do similar things, but man, that was unreal good. That whole jam into Soul Sacrifice. And of course, Soul Sacrifice, the drumming stood out to me on that one. But both Falcon and Isaac back there, man, for two drummers that play that in sync and that well together, man, they do an incredible job.
That was a good song for them to shine, a spot for them to shine.
Yep.
Because everybody gets to shine at a TTB show, and at a venue like this, they don't have enough time, and that was a perfect song for them to shine.
Yeah, Made Up Mind. I was waiting for the second half where they give it to Mark and let him do it, but I think they knew they only had so much time, so they cut it out. And I was like, oh man, I was waiting for Mark to start because they got right to that point. I'm like, okay, here comes Mark, and then they announced they were done, and then everybody erupted. I'm like, oh man, I wanted to hear Mark crush that. He always does.
I'm sure some
Nashville show, man. Look up the Nashville show. He killed. He absolutely killed.
They made it up to Mark on Made Up Mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure some
10 or 15 minutes. He just went off.
Oh wow.
I'm sure fans went. If any fans like TTB hardcores were able to rub shoulders with Mark after the show. I'm sure people went up to him and be like, "Where was your Made Up Mind solo?
Right.
Where was your Made Up Mind solos?" And then he's explaining to everyone, obviously, and everyone knows it was, festival set time and all that stuff. Obviously, we were looking at the set list. It's not, it's I guess it's about the same length as half of a TTB show if they're doing an evening with.
Yeah. I think their first set's about that long. So yeah, it was just like the evening with stuff. That was pretty much I wouldn't call that an opening set because I don't think you would see all those same songs in an opening set. But that's pretty much what it
No,
was. It was
not
the
necessarily.
same length.
Was Midnight? Did you get like was there a shorter intro for Midnight? How did they get into Midnight in Harlem? If you
I
remember,
didn't think it was shorter. Did you, Brandon?
Everything seemed a little more streamlined. Like I said earlier, it just there wasn't any time wasted or drawn out, or everything just seemed very streamlined. Because I noticed the big difference because I saw them 2 nights in a row. Where the second night everything is super laid back and totally different vibe. But the festival show, everything was like going clockwork, streamlined. It seemed, but still very cool.
I could see that, and I would almost guess that, like you're saying, it does feel like, it felt like more of a chill, relaxed vibe at the Nashville show. That was the next night. That was Saturday, and TTB set was Friday in Louisville. Did you feel that vibe at the Nashville show? That it was like the band was like, we can relax. It's not a festival show.
Yeah, most definitely, because everything was expanded upon. Like, they might have played the same amount of songs. I can't even remember how many songs they played, but every song was expanded and extended. I mean, and like Mark took his big shine. Alicia took a huge shine. Everybody. The vibe was just so different. It was just.
It's not. I was gonna say
an evening with.
Yeah, and it's not like the band obviously wants to please the hardcore Tedeschi Trucks Band fans, and when they're doing a regular one of their own shows. But I guess it's kind of human nature. Like if you're at a festival, you're kind of putting on a different face. You want to put your best foot forward in front of a large group of strangers. And I guess they kind of have that vibe, or not vibe, but like they must feel that way when they're playing like Red Rocks or a bigger show, or a show that's going to be live streamed or making a television appearance. They want to put their best foot forward, especially with shows like that. But I think I feel like the next day after this sort of like more high profile show, whatever the case may be, like you do have kind of a more relaxed vibe. But in some ways that's better, different, whatever it is. It's like, like more of a family and friends feel probably at the Nashville show, I'd guess, especially with hometown Gabe show we talked a little bit about last night.
It just had a different, just a more laid back vibe. Both shows were great. Both shows were totally different.
That's what makes it special too, is like how every show is different, and to see TTB in different settings was cool. I've been lucky to see them a couple of times, I think, at the Jimmy Kimmel summer concert series or whatever. So to see them in that capacity and sort of it's still an intimate setting is cool versus like all 12 standing in the balcony or up or in the orchestra or wherever. It's like always a fun experience no matter where it be at.
I expected a couple of sit-ins during TTB. I mean, they had
there's no time.
Dwayne Betts played earlier in the day, and JJ Gray played too. Who's JJ's from Jacksonville himself, or just outside. And Dwayne and Derek, of course, know each other. So I mean, I'm like, because Dwayne played, and I'm like, okay, I think he's going to come out later with TTB, and then it didn't happen. But I mean, I'm not disappointed at all. But I just was in the back of my mind, I'm going, okay, when's Dwayne going to come out? When's Dwayne going to come out? But it just thoughts in the back of my head. Then I saw Bobby right before Dwayne took the stage. I saw Bobby backstage, just I don't know what he was doing, if he's just hanging out or whatever. And I thought, okay, I bet we're going to get a Derek sit-in during the Dwayne show, and it never happened. But I thought maybe that was a clue that Dwayne was going to pop out, or Derek, I mean. But of course he did play the song that Derek plays on Dwayne's album. He said, well, he's not here now, but he goes, we did get our buddy Derek Trucks to play on this next tune. And I'm like, oh man, I would have loved to have seen Derek walk out right at that moment. But
don't even say it if he's not coming out.
No
joke. Do what?
No joke.
Yeah.
I was speculating last night that perhaps Derek and Susan might shoot up to Buffalo tonight to see the Jacksonville Jaguars play the Bills. but I hope for their sake they did not, because I just pulled up the score, 37-10. Buffalo is up in early fourth quarter. It's not. I guess it's not. It's probably over. But I hope they didn't. I hope they didn't go to that.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help me as a Jets fan. I would like Buffalo to not win, but off topic somewhat. But
Still
nevertheless,
related in a way.
exactly. No, this is important stuff. How the Jaguars season pans out could definitely affect the mood of the band of Derek and Susan. If they if the Jaguars just lost a game like the night before, the day before, earlier that game, and then you run into them at the show, that could affect your mood. And football, you got a whole week before the next game, so you got to sit with that loss for a whole week. Who needs that? It's only football. Cool, good stuff all around. Anything else you guys want to mention, cover?
Well, Derek did sit in with Black Pumas right before TTB played. Black Pumas.
Dude, I got to get on YouTube. I got a lot of research and things to dig in on. Perhaps, I'm sure. You saw a lot of people filming and cameras out and all that, I'm sure, and whatnot.
Yeah.
No tapers though. I haven't seen any audio pop up from the set. I don't know if they were really allowing audio.
It was I think it was in the festival rules that they weren't allowing recording equipment, but I'm sure if somebody would have shown up with a letter saying, "Hey, TTB is allowing me to record," I'm sure the security would have been like, "Yeah, go ahead." Because Dave Matthews allows tapers too, and I didn't see anybody with a tower up even for his set. So I don't know if people just were like, I don't want to mess with it at this festival. I don't want to even try to get it through security or what. But I thought I would see at least one. But
they're all experts, these tapers. I feel like whatever the rules are, that's not necessarily a deal breaker for them. Dudes hide microphones in their hair and do all kinds of stuff.
Well, I mean, maybe somebody emailed them and said, "Hey, I want to tape these bands," and they probably were like, "No, we can't. We can't let you do it," or what. Maybe somebody did try to make contact with them. I don't know, but I mean, I'm going to put this out there. If Bobby or somebody listens to this, I would love to see that Bourbon and Beyond set make it to a soundboard release. I don't know how it sounded out of the speakers farther back than about second row right in front of the band, but it sounded great from where I was. So I would love to see a soundboard release from that. To have an actual show that I was at would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, they record.
Come on, Bobby, work your magic.
It probably isn't his decision to.
No, but I'm sure he could bring it up.
Right, I'm sure this. Well, we know that they're working on some kind of Swamp Family access to more materials and stuff. So we'll see how that shakes out. I'm sure we'll get something soon enough.
Every big jam band seems to kind of have their own way of doing that. I know Warren Haynes and Government Mule had something like that for a while, and I think they signed on with nugs.net now. So I wonder if that's where everybody's going rather than trying to do their own thing. Maybe they're all making deals with Nugs, and I know TTB just recently got on there, so maybe that'll lead to more releases in the future.
Right, even like Nugs seems super cool, and they got a great thing going on there. And even thinking about how you couldn't see Derek and Elizabeth clearly on the screen, they weren't doing that because like TTB, if you don't know the band and you don't know their songs, you kind of don't always know where to hit that switch or where to point the camera. But I think Nugs did have conversations, I think actually if the Red Rocks show, or was it the Red Rocks? I think it was Red Rocks, probably at Red Rocks and the Greek up in Berkeley. I think Nugs people worked with TTB people, so they knew. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but on those shows, the cutting was pretty efficient. Yeah. I think like when there was a solo coming, they were right there ready for it was very intuitive. I don't know if it was both shows or the Greek where I noticed it, but I definitely noticed some of those recent Nug streams where it's like, oh, it's getting even better. It's not, as far as like the direction.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't just TTB. I noticed that with the crew. I noticed it with quite a few bands. So I don't know if maybe the crew members weren't used to filming all those bands and kind of how the solos work and stuff like that, or where they were supposed to be. But it wasn't bad. But I mean, during the whole Elizabeth and Derek exchange, they were showing Susan, and I'm like, come on, I want to see the person soloing right now. I want to see the exchange of looks between those two.
Right, and then
But
look over at Susan for a second to see her reaction, then come back.
yeah,
I always talk about that. Like, where do you look at a TTB show? There's so much.
oh, I know. Like
things to
David Flam
see.
said last night, he
Right.
zeroed in on Brandon, and I'm like, man, I was listening to that. I'm like, man, I wish I would have done that Friday night. I wish I would have listened to him for a song, and then concentrated on the different areas of TTB just to really kind of take in from a different perspective. But like he said, it's hard when Derek's up there killing it. It's hard to look at anything else going on.
Right. Even our ears, although we're obviously hearing everything and the sum of everything, we're all kind of drawn to different pitches and tones and frequencies and things like that, like ranges. Like, most people, myself, I guess, a lot of people are drawn to more of the guitars and the vocals and those mid ranges or whatever. And then you have like the bass and rhythm people who are like, they hear the Brandon, I'm sure I think maybe we even had this conversation where it's like your ear is perhaps more drawn to the drums and then everything else around it fills it out. Like, it's hard to know what everybody kind of hears.
Right. Yeah, I was definitely drawn to me. Dave and I were not too far apart at the Nashville show, and we were kind of right in front of Brandon. I don't know if they just had him up a little bit more or if he was just having an awesome night, but he caught my ear more at the Nashville show than in the past. He was on fire. He was like, I was having a tough time watching Derek, paying attention to Brandon. He was just thumping that bass.
There's always one point where even if you're not consciously focusing on one member of the band, they all kind of grab your attention at some point.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
night, and you're like, holy crap. And it's not always when they're soloing necessarily.
You can look at it anytime, really.
Yep.
Yeah, Gilded Splinters, it was Mike, Mark, and Alicia for me. They each had their little parts in Gilded Splinters, so they all three stood out on that one, because I thought, well, I'm focusing on the drums, or I'm focusing here, and then I'd hear them going back and forth, and I go, oh, I got to look over here now, so I don't miss Mike, Mark, and Alicia giving it all they got. And there's just so many dynamics to a TTB show all going on at one time. You're like, okay, I want to look here, but then there's something going on over here. Gabe's tearing it up, or Brandon's thumping on the bass, or the drummers are really working hard, and it's like, man, I want to look at all of it, but I might miss something else.
That's what you use your ears for, I guess. But yeah,
exactly.
we're all kind of in that sense directors for our own live TTB experience. Like, and the cameras are our eyes, and like where we choose to focus our our attention kind of does make for the experience. Experience. What it is.
Didn't know about, but I did figure it out after the fact. I knew about it. Derek went over to where they were selling his whiskey and was making drinks for people after he got off the stage talking about his whiskey. They ran him over to the booth. I'm like, man, I would have loved to have known about that. I'd have gone over there and ordered a drink just to say Derek Trucks made me a drink.
Are there any pictures of that? We got to dig up a picture of that.
I haven't seen any. I've been looking at like the TTB groups and stuff. I haven't seen any, so I don't know if
I have fans too. I don't think the band posted any of that, but I imagine somebody must have got a photo of that somewhere. You know what upsets me? This is definitely off topic, but like Instagram used to be able to search hashtags or whatever you're searching by recent. You used to be searching Tedeschi Trucks band recent, and then you'd see everyone who used that hashtag at the most recent shows. And now it's just like top recent posts, and it just shows like random thing from 2021, which is awesome. But like, I would rather see like every person who posted. God,
yep,
that upsets me. Anyway, what else? Anything else we need to cover, or we could talk about this band all night?
Yeah, I got to show you guys something I've been trying to get for about 30 shows now.
I know what's coming. Yep.
Oh, you got one? Nice.
Life is complete. So
I'm surprised it took that long. I'm disappointed. No, that's great. That's is there a story behind it?
I did that backstage pass with Bobby Tiz.
Oh, nice.
That which was so worth the money because I'm a gearhead. I love looking at all the gear, and I got to basically smell it. I was right on it, And I got talking with Bobby, and I had a shirt for a Jacksonville Jaguars shirt. I asked him, hey, can you give this to Derek for me? He said, oh, yeah. I said, you think he'd be willing to trade me a slide for it? And he said, I'm sure he would. So he did.
Oh, that's awesome.
So Derek handed it to you, or Bobby?
Well, he got Bobby to give it to me after the show. So it was.
Oh, okay. Because I feel like Bobby always has slides on him too.
Well,
you could probably got one without the shirt, without the trade. But anyway,
yeah,
nice. Very generous.
It was cool.
Of course. Experience. You got a slide too, Garrett?
I've gotten one before. Yeah, it took me a while, just like Brandon said. It took me a while to get mine, but there was one show. It was in Knoxville, and I got there early, and I was wanting to, talk to Derek and Susan, and Bobby came out, so I was cutting up with him, and then he went away, and then he came back out, and he goes, "What are you still doing out here?" I said, "Man, I haven't seen Derek and Susan yet." I said, "I want to talk to him," and so we got to shooting the crap again, and he just. He was like, "Man, I don't think they're going to make it out." He's like, they've got to, because I think they had just added, I don't know if it was Gabe had just been added, or they had just added a couple of people and they were trying to work up more songs or something like that. And he's like, "Man, I don't think they're going to get out here before the show." And I was like, "All right, I'll take your word for it." And so I kind of walked away, and then I was sitting kind of close up, and then it got to the halfway point, and Bobby came out and was grabbing Derek's guitar. So I gave him a thumbs up and said, "Hey, I liked the first set." And he said, "Oh, glad you liked it." And then after, I was just kind of waiting by the stage. And then, of course, there's hands all around me when they see Bobby grab that slide. And so Bobby's like, "Sorry, guys, but this guy right here waited 3 hours to try to talk to Derek and Susan earlier." And he goes, "I got to give him something." He goes, "I couldn't get Derek and Susan for him, but," he goes, "I got to reward him for his efforts."
Nice.
He's like, he deserves it for waiting that long. And so yeah, I got the slide that night, and I ran out of the theater around to the bus, and I caught Derek just as he's getting on the bus. I yelled out, "Derek, I got your slide. Can you sign it for me?" And he stopped and looked back out the door and saw me and came back down and signed it and said hello. So that was cool.
Dude.
That completed the night for me.
That's so nice. Wow. That he like truly went out of his way. Like he could have probably ignored you, and
he could have ignored it and gotten on the bus, but the fact that he heard me and stopped and looked kind of like, "Who said that?" and then stepped back off and came down and did that. That was cool. And I've had several interactions with him like that. Just kind of. It's funny because Knoxville is kind of a smaller city, and it's funny when the band comes, they'll kind of get out and they'll walk around and they'll go have something to eat or whatever. So I've been down there early, kind of sometimes, and like I wasn't even looking for Derek at this one point. Me and my buddy had been by the bus, and we're like, "Oh, we probably won't see him before the show. Let's go get something to eat." So we walk up about a block. We cross the street, and who do I almost run over but Derek Trucks? Like I didn't even know it was him, and I almost ran smack into him crossing the road.
Driving or walking?
Walking. Like I was walking
Careful
like face to face with him, and it didn't dawn on me that's who that was. And then when I realized I couldn't get the words out, and then I turned around, I'm like, "Derek," and he acknowledged, and I said, "Do you have a quick minute to sign something?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, for sure." And so I was like, "What, are you heading back from dinner or what?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, we just went up and had a bite to eat." So it was neat. He took a minute and signed what we had, and it was right after Butch had passed away. So of course I said, "Hey, thanks for taking the time. I have condolences for your loss." And he said, "Thank you." And it's funny, he dropped the Sharpie when I tried to hand it to him. He dropped it. I said, "Hey, do me a favor, don't drop your slide tonight." And he laughed. He loved that comment. He laughed about it. He's like, "Yeah, that'd be a bad night, wouldn't it?"
Yeah, that's funny. And you know what? Everyone that I've talked to or seen or posted about, like everyone's super happy and excited to get a slide from Derek. And a lot of people have used him or play guitar or whatever also. So that's extra meaningful. But something about, I think, the fact that someone knows to ask for a slide and knows that that's a thing even to like try to get, I think that means something as well. Just the fact you're like, "Hey, can you sign my slide?" That says a lot of things in itself, that, oh, you're into the guitar, you're into the music,
right.
that collectible. So I think like the fact that Like the casual fan is probably wouldn't even think to ask for a slide. They'd probably just think maybe, oh, let me get a pick, a set list, a foil poster even. But people are not like the casuals are not asking for slides. I don't think. Maybe
That's how I used to be. Like I'd try to get a set list, or then I try to get that signed. And then when I knew he was giving his slides away, I'm like, okay, that's my next goal. Is I want one of those, because I told several people at the festival, I'm like, I'm a fan of a lot of guitar players, but Derek is number one. Nobody plays like him. And I wish the people that I told that to, I could have seen them after they watched TTB and asked them, okay, what'd you think? Because I'm sure their jaws probably hit the floor, if not before, but by the end of the show, they were probably like, wow, that was. And even some of the, I'm a member of some of the Dave Matthews groups on Facebook, and people have been going in there going, wow, that Derek Truck sit-in on Lion Our Graves was awesome. He floored me with what he did. They were even impressed, and I mean, I'm sure they've
Make new
probably
fans.
seen him and countless other people sit in with Dave. So for them to give him props, I'm like, man, that's pretty big coming from a bunch of DMB fans who have followed that band probably religiously, like we do TTB, and have seen countless numbers of people, and for them to say they thought that much of Derek, I'm like, wow, that really left an impression.
Yeah, no one plays like Derek. We know that.
No.
I feel like the not essential what the word is, the set at a show of memorabilia is, what is it? You need to get a set list,
guitar
picks,
slide,
and a foil poster. Is that the fourth thing? That's a purchase, but that's a limited.
They don't
edition.
always have foils though.
Set list,
so
slide,
I think just
picks.
A poster in general would probably.
Okay, that's fair. That's
and
fair.
Then a poker chip, from what I've seen. If
they
have them on the Deuces Wild.
Yeah, if you're on Deuces Wild, you have to get if you're going for the collectibles, the limited edition collectibles, you got to get a set list, a pick, a slide, a poker chip, and a poster, and a foil if available, or a foil if available.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't post that you got a complete set if you don't have all those things. Doesn't count.
I guess a complete set from the stage would be the slide, the pick, and the set list. I guess you could say you got the trifecta off the stage.
Right.
I mean, I almost wonder what's the next thing we got to get, drumsticks or a microphone from Susan or something like that. Of course, I'm joking about the microphone.
Right.
Nobody take that literal. I'm joking about that, but I have yet to get drumsticks, so maybe I'll get lucky and get some sticks from Falcon or Isaac or.
Well, I forget who it was. I think it was someone on this show. Maybe it was one of you guys who got broken Derek string. That was the thing. Maybe not a microphone, but a form of gear. Some people have grabbed his broken strings or whatever. I've heard of that.
It's so rare to see him break a string. I think that'd be pretty rare item to get.
Once a month he breaks a string. I think it's less rare for him than maybe other guitar players. It seems like he's, every few weeks there's a broken string thing, and we see him on stage stringing it up while Gabe or Kebby has to step in, or Susan do a solo or do something.
He's not playing. He's playing without a pick, so breaking a string, playing with your bare fingers, he's getting it. I mean,
yeah.
It's from his left hand bending them, I'm guessing. The bends must be the bends.
Well, it's got to happen at the bridge. That's where they're going to break. So it would be down at his right hand.
Or his right hand, yeah.
Bending it, but it would, he's getting that thing, man. It's, breaking a string playing without a pick is not something that happens very often.
No, definitely
there
a unique
are times
style.
I'm like, do I want to watch him move the slide, or do I want to watch his right hand? Because both are just so interesting to watch him. I mean, there are times he's moving his right hand, and I'm like, is that even attached to the bone anymore? Because it looks like it's not even attached at some points. I'm like,
I don't know how he does it. Because I tried to play slide for 5 minutes in my life, essentially, but my brain can't. My hand wasn't as fast as what my brain wanted to play. Even when I'm playing super slowly, I found it so challenging to string any melody that was longer than 3 notes together, because my hand and brain, I couldn't coordinate. I don't know. It's a super cool sound for sure.
I asked Chris Trucks that question at merch one time. I was buying a shirt, and I said, "Let me ask you a quick question." He said, "Okay," and I said, "Derek's right hand." I said, "There are times he's moving that thing so quick. I don't know how he does that, and looks like there's no bone." I go, "How does he do that?" And he goes, "You'll have to ask him that question." He goes, "I don't even know." He goes,
Muscle.
"It blows my mind too." He goes, and he's my son." He goes, "I have no idea."
It's a muscle memory, I guess.
Yeah,
Something like
but
that.
but from
Hey,
from our perspective, man, I don't know, it just blows my mind how he moves his hands as quick as he does, and just still gets such just a pure sound out of his instrument at all times. It blows me away. Like I
Yeah,
said, nobody plays like him.
it's probably from another planet, like Jimi Hendrix or Miles Davis or
Yeah.
any of these types. Because I actually do hear some of those otherworldly sounds that I've never really heard before, and those three artists have kind of been reminding me of each other in some way lately. Just listening to some of the wild things that those musicians did, that are also like, oh, this makes perfect sense right now. Why this is being played at this very moment, like especially their solos. Those three.
Maybe he truly is Dwayne Allman reincarnated.
Greg said it, not me. Greg said it in so
Oh
many
yeah.
words. Cool. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time, the stories, the recaps. The
hey,
journey continues.
I've got a couple extra of these if anyone would like to trade for another color. So hit me up.
I don't have any duplicates. I
The
got a
poker.
few
Yeah.
of them. That's cool. The yellow one. Nice.
I got about 4 of them, so I could trade
I'm
around.
sure some people will be happy to.
If you just
Cool.
want to give one away, Brandon, I'd take one for sure.
Hey,
I haven't
That's where I
seen
thought
any
we
of
were
those
going.
shows yet.
need to hook you up
That's
anyway.
where I thought we were going.
On that you gave me.
Yeah,
was
I
it-
hooked you up with a bracelet. You want to
Yeah.
trade me a poker chip?
I can do that, man. Send me your address.
Nice. Do
All
that
right,
offline.
cool. Yeah, I'm not putting that information on this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. Maybe people will send you stuff.
You got my number, Garrett.
Yep.
Nice. Good stuff, guys. Thank you again.
Had fun. Thank you.
You got to talk soon, guys.
Yep.
Peace.
Later. So there you go. What was that, episode 173? Recapping Tedeschi Trucks Band at Bourbon and Beyond Festival, and talking the Ass Pocket Whiskey Intimate show that Derek did at Show Barn at Ashburn Farms. That was cool to check out some of the pictures from there. I got to get on YouTube and see what else is what fans have been putting out there the last 24, 48 hours or so from these shows. But I hope everyone's doing okay out there. At Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. Please subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. I'll get the audio version out of this maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, definitely soon for sure. Patreon.com/TTB podcast. Please support the show. I definitely appreciate it. It means a lot to me. AdamChoit.com, Tedeschi Trucks Podcast.com for everything related to the show. Adam Choit is everything else that I'm working on. Tedeschi Trucks Band.com is the band's official website. Definitely buy tickets to shows. More shows coming up. More Deuces Wild Tour shows coming up soon. Join the Swamp Family fan club. Download the app, of course. What do we got? Beacon shows this week, and then Brooklyn as well. So I'm thinking I'll probably recap those Sunday night or Monday night. Was it the 29th or the 30th? I'm thinking I'll probably do all 4 in one night. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But I think that's pretty much it. I did see the band just posted on their social media a bunch of pics from Kofi Day of Service, a bunch of additional ones. So I'm gonna I'll probably check those out and share some of those and whatnot. But such a cool weekend of music, Tennessee and Bourbon and beyond, and Kofi Day of Service in so many cities around the country. Thank you again, everyone, for supporting that great cause in memory of Kofi. Thank you, Tedeschi Trucks Band, the crew, the fans, podcast supporters, guests. I think that's about all I got for today. Thank you for listening, and let's talk soon. Peace.